Tonight at AEW Double or Nothing, we have Cody Rhodes going by the American Dream, not the American Nightmare. He's using his father's nickname, the American Dream. Cody Rhodes is going up against British boxing Olympic bronze medalist Anthony Ogogo. It's certainly Anthony Ogogo's biggest match of his pro wrestling career. And it's a fascinating one, to be honest. It's a fascinating one in the sense that Cody Rhodes in AEW is different at this point. There have been lots of rumors, haven't there, about rumors of heat, rumors of dissension, rumors of issues between the EVPs, and people have pointed to obviously those rumors and those stories, and some credible people have come out and spoken about them, but lots of people point to that Cody Rhodes in AEW, what Cody Rhodes does is really different to what all of the other EVPs are doing. All of the other EVPs are kind of involved and intertwined together, whether it's Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, that kind of situation, whereas Cody Rhodes, ever since sort of January last year, but around sort of January last year, or certainly when the pandemic first hit last year in March, for the last 12 months or so, Cody Rhodes is kind of, in AEW, Cody Rhodes kind of just exists in this separate universe, doesn't he? And it's strange. It does feel slightly strange. And when it comes to the Cody Rhodes feud with the Factory, obviously Cody Rhodes owns the Nightmare Factory. I think QT Marshall owns it as well, and that's their training school in Atlanta, Georgia. When it comes to Cody Rhodes' feud with the Factory, it feels, I'll be completely blunt about it. I don't really care that much about it. I don't have, as a viewer, I don't really have the emotional investment in it, and it just doesn't really do anything for me. And I don't know if that's because I'm not totally familiar with the characters. I know the characters do appear a lot on AEW Dark, or have appeared on AEW Dark, and I understand the story that they're trying to tell in that feud initially with the Factory, in terms of these are guys that Cody Rhodes has helped train and taught, and obviously Cody Rhodes, one of his longtime best friends, is QT Marshall and all that kind of stuff. It didn't really do anything for me. When they did the initial turn on Dynamite, when part of the Factory kind of turned on itself, a Factory civil war, I guess, and Cody's feud with QT Marshall again, it just kind of felt like there's been a narrative, hasn't there, that there are certain elements of AEW that are just Cody and his friends, right? Cody and his friends, and it kind of did feel a little bit like that with the Factory deal and Cody Rhodes' feud with the Factory. It just wasn't for me, and I don't know if it really was for most people. I guess, like I said, the die-hard viewers of all of the AEW programming, AEW Dark Elevation, certainly AEW Dark would be more familiar with the Factory. I think most people just kind of rolled their eyes when QT Marshall got a faction. You get a faction, you get a faction, you get a faction. QT Marshall's now got a faction, and it's the Factory, and it kind of was a little bit like, it just felt like another vehicle of, we've got to give Cody something to do. We've got to give Cody something to do, and we've got to have Cody to have opponents, and we've got to have, AEW's the Cody Rhodes show, so we've got to have this, and it kind of was just a bit like, okay, we kind of get it. But with the whole Anthony Ogogo situation, and I must stress here that maybe I'm not the best commentator to talk about this, because obviously I am based in the United Kingdom. I'm British. I was born in England, born and raised in England. I'm from the United Kingdom, and I'm familiar with Anthony Ogogo as a guy that's obviously based, like I said, here in the UK, and as an Englishman and someone that followed Anthony Ogogo, his career. If you're based in the UK, and I don't think a lot of people understand this, but if you're based in the UK or you're from the UK and you're a fan of sports, really, if you're a fan of sport and you've watched the Olympics, you're familiar with Anthony Ogogo going back to even prior to the Olympics in 2012, certainly 2011, but really in 2012, where he really rose to prominence over here in the UK. So you've known about Anthony Ogogo for the best part of 9 years, or maybe even 10 years at this point. He's well known, and I'm not really sure that people really get that in the United States, or if that really translates, that he's well known. Anthony Ogogo is relatively well known over here in the UK. Now, is he a major celebrity? I don't know, but he's relatively well known. People know who he is, and is he a national hero? No, I mean, he didn't win a gold medal at the London Games. He won a bronze medal in a home games. He certainly isn't as well known or popular as, say, an Anthony Joshua or someone like that, but he's well known. His boxing career got cut short because of injury. He's got, if you followed the guy's story, it's horrific, really. Had a horrible eye injury, had, I think it's like 3 or 4 different surgeries, maybe even more on his eye. He's lost 75% of vision in his eye. If you look closer, you can still kind of see that his eye kind of points in a different direction. There were horrible times where he would post pictures on social media of his eye would kind of be rolled up into the top of his head, and he could barely see. And he can barely kind of see now. Like I said, he's got 75% vision loss in one eye. So he's essentially working with one eye when he works. And he realizes that time is ticking. And the vision injury ended his pro boxing career, but that's not to say that jumping into the world of pro wrestling that accidents can't happen and accidents won't happen. So who's to say that it doesn't get worse? He's taking a risk jumping into the world of pro wrestling anyway. But he is well known over here in the UK, and kind of the storyline direction of this one between Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo has got a lot of people talking, because it is slightly odd. It is slightly odd that Cody Rhodes is... It's become a battle of countries almost. It's become quite, it's based around patriotism. And Cody Rhodes is the American dream, and he says that Anthony Ogogo being forced to retire from one sport and coming over to the United States and thriving in a company and learning a new craft, all that kind of stuff. Anthony Ogogo's living the American dream, so he's going to go by the American dream. And I understand, of course, it's Memorial Day as well during over there in the United States as well. So I understand there's this sort of element of patriotism about this storyline. The one thing I will kind of say is that, and again, I don't want to get too political, and I know some people have kind of spoken about this a lot, in that is it necessarily the right time to be doing this whole, patriotism and talking about America versus the rest of the world and that kind of stuff. It's a hot button topic right now. I'm just surprised in this current climate, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't be patriotic at all. I think you should be proud where you're from, proud of your country, and it's great to be a proud, for me, be a proud British person, a proud Englishman, or a proud American, or whatever. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just, the current climate is what it is right now, and it does feel like a bit of a controversial sort of hot button topic. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. It just feels a bit odd and a bit out of place, and a bit like, I don't know, that it's kind of forced. The whole storyline at the moment does feel kind of a bit of a mess to me. In terms of, okay, so initially it was Cody versus the Factory. Anthony Ogogo represents the Factory, so that's what it was. Anthony Ogogo is representing QT Marshall. The Factory turned on Cody. Why they turned on Cody, I don't know if they really ever explain that. I mean, I might have missed it, but I don't think I did. They haven't really explained why that's the case. And then it pivoted from, okay, it's no longer sort of Cody versus the Factory, it's the USA versus the United Kingdom, and it's an American person versus a British person. Okay, that's the direction that they're going in. And it kind of just, that's my issue with this storyline, is that I just don't, I don't know what they're doing week on week, and it kind of feels like that's the case. It does feel slightly chaotic, and the weigh-in that they had on Dynamite this week, I didn't really kind of get. So they're doing a weigh-in for a wrestling match, but when else do you have weigh-ins for wrestling matches? It just felt a bit odd, but they're taking a boxing perspective by having a weigh-in. It was just a bit odd. Now, obviously, I know the presentation of Anthony Ogogo so far is that he's been either knocking people out, or he's got this like devastating liver punch. He's punching people to the liver or the gut or the kidneys, whatever, and it's stopping matches, all that kind of stuff. I know people haven't been too on board with that. I think if the presentation of that was better, it could have worked, because we do see that in boxing. You do see that in MMA, where people get punched to the, like I said, the liver or the kidneys or the gut, and they just drop and they're done. That happens all the time. I just don't know if necessarily, like I said, the presentation of maybe Ogogo laying it in a little bit better, or the sell job being a bit better. I don't know. I do think that could work, but I don't know if the presentation of that's been necessarily the best that it could be. So that's another thing that I think people are struggling to adapt to. I think people are universally saying that Anthony Ogogo's got tremendous charisma. He does. He's a former boxer, and the most successful boxers, and Ogogo was a successful boxer, have an element of charisma about them. You have to realize, when it comes to boxing, of course, you have the fight inside of the ring, but some of the most successful boxers ever are showmen. Their whole job, and part of maybe the hardest part of the job, is selling the fight and trying to get people to buy into the fight, or trying to convince people to buy tickets to watch the fight or purchase the fight on pay-per-view. And Ogogo comes from that background, so he can talk smack. He talks smack very well, and he does have this element of charisma about him. Now, what I have enjoyed about this storyline, and this has only come in the last 24 hours, a couple of days or so, is that Ogogo now, at this point, is really going in, not so much on Cody Rhodes, but he's going in on America. He's talking about how he's proud to be British, and things that make Britain great, and things that make Britain better than America. And don't worry, I'm not going to get into all that kind of stuff in this video, but I saw an interview he did with Nick Houseman of Wrestling Inc. yesterday, and I thought it was excellent, a real good interview. and he talks about our universal healthcare system over here in the United Kingdom, the NHS. And if you're not familiar with it, our universal healthcare system, the NHS, is truly one of these elements that really makes Britain great. It saved millions and millions and millions of lives. The fact that we still have a public health care system is it's incredible. It's the bedrock of our society. It's the bedrock of what, as I mentioned, makes Britain great. Certainly over the course of the last 18 months or so, it would have been chaos without our national healthcare system. They really are the true heroes, the true warriors of Britain is the people that work for the NHS. So all that kind of stuff. Anthony Ogogo's been talking about all that kind of stuff and ripping America for its history, or maybe its lack of history and all that kind of stuff. And I look at that and I say, well, that does have potential. That does have potential. Turning this into a US versus UK situation, if they do this, I can see it working in the sense that 1997 had Canada versus the United States. You had the Hart Foundation, you had Bret Hart, you had the Hart Foundation come out every single week on television, and when they came out in the United States, they got booed out of the buildings. They were the biggest heels in the company. They were hated, they were villainized, they had proper heat, nuclear heat, and it was great television. But then on the weeks where they did TV in Canada, these guys came out, they were ultimate baby faces. They were heroes. They could barely talk because they were getting cheered so loudly. Canadian Stampede, In Your House Canadian Stampede, is one of the greatest pay-per-view main events in pro wrestling history, arguably because of the reaction, because of the atmosphere. That all stemmed from the US versus Canada situation. And I look at this and I say, well, they're really forcing the whole patriotism issue here. They're really forcing the United States versus United Kingdom kind of situation here. Why? And then I think back to Fyter Fest last year, because Fyter Fest last year was scheduled to take place in the United Kingdom. It was set to take place at Wembley Arena in London, England. Why is that important? We know AEW wants to run shows in the United Kingdom. We know Tony Khan, obviously, he owns Fulham FC over here in London in the United Kingdom. Fulham just got relegated, by the way, from the Premier League. Nevertheless, Tony Khan has strong ties in the United Kingdom. They want to run shows over here in the United Kingdom. The way I kind of look at this as, if they're really pushing on this US versus United Kingdom situation, they're trying to make Anthony Ogogo one of just the biggest heels in AEW in the United States. The guy will get, he'll get booed out of the building. He'll be hated. He'll be vilified. He'll be a huge villain. He talks so much smack about the country. He doesn't care. He's trying to get heat. He's trying to be hated, and he will be hated if he continues talking about this, about the United States. It could get even really nasty at points, but he's trying to be a villain. Fast forward to if they do an event over here in the United Kingdom this year, if they do an event in London where Anthony Ogogo is from, if they do all of this kind of stuff, Anthony Ogogo, he's a hero over here anyway because he's a boxing medalist at the Olympics at a home games. So he's well respected, he's well liked because, again, he won a medal at the London 2012 Olympics, home games. He's well known and he's well respected. If they do a flip of this match where it's Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo in London in the United Kingdom, Cody Rhodes suddenly becomes one of the biggest heels on that event, and Anthony Ogogo suddenly becomes a big babyface. So I'm not saying this is going to be the equivalent of, the US versus Canada from 1997 with WWE, but I think it's possible they could do something like that. I'm not saying that either one of these guys is Bret Hart and the other person is, Steve Austin or whoever, but I think there's a possibility. I think there's a possibility that if they play their cards right here, which is a nice pun for Double or Nothing, but if they play their cards right, they could have something quite unique and quite special. Now, running shows over here in the UK, I don't know what that would look like. It's possible. It's possible because of obviously vaccinations, and we're in a different situation when it comes to the pandemic right now. It's certainly not over. We're still having some issues over here in the United Kingdom, especially with various variants popping their heads up and all that kind of stuff. We're still not out of the woods yet by any stretch of the imagination. But I think if they play their cards right, if they get a bit of luck when it comes to the pandemic and possibly running a show over here in the United Kingdom, they can do something really unique and really special. So maybe that's where they're going with this one. As far as the outcome for tonight, I would hope that Anthony Ogogo wins, and I'll say it because if he loses, what next for him? He said himself he has a limited amount of time in pro wrestling because of his eye injury. They're trying to smash this guy over as a top heel in the company. He's got a legitimate boxing background. He's got credibility. Is he a great worker? Time will tell. He's been very protected in the matches that he's worked. He's obviously got the finish that they like in terms of either the knockout punch or the debilitating punch to the gut and all that kind of stuff. He's put people out. He's put the gun club out, all that kind of stuff. If he loses tonight, what next? he struggles to recover, in my opinion. If Cody loses tonight, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Cody loses tonight. He's still Cody Rhodes. He's still an EVP. People still know him. He's still over with the AEW audience. If Anthony Ogogo loses tonight, where's his credibility? You know, you can only make a good first impression once. And I know Ogogo has wrestled, but I mean in terms of a big match on a big stage. Your first big match on a big stage, most of the time you need to win. There's only on a very select, rare occasion that you can lose and still get over and still be considered a big credible threat, especially as a heel. As a babyface, maybe it's slightly different, but as a heel, a dominating heel, a dominating heel, which is how AEW are trying to position Anthony Ogogo. If you're going to lose this big match to Cody Rhodes, what's next? I don't know. I don't know how he recovers. He can still knock people out, and they can still try and build him back up, but I don't think Cody needs it. I think if you look at these two guys, who needs it the most? It's Anthony Ogogo. And I think if AEW wanted to do something really special and make a real statement and make a star, they would have Anthony Ogogo knock out Cody Rhodes very, very quickly. Now, I don't know if they're going to do that. But I think Cody, you know, he realizes that he's in tune with the business, and he knows situations about making stars. And I don't know if he wants to be in a John Cena situation whereby the up-and-coming heel should win because they should make the heel. I don't know if Cody wants to make the same mistake there. For me, it seems relatively obvious if you want to make Anthony Ogogo, if you're going to push him like it appears like they are pushing him, if you want to make a heel, if you want to make a star, and if you want to run this back in the United Kingdom later on in the year and do big business and have a unique moment, you'd have Anthony Ogogo win here, and you'd have him win decisively. You'd knock Cody Rhodes out in a couple of minutes, and you'd make it seem, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Or maybe Cody does look like he's got a good flurry, and then Ogogo just knocks him out, bang. And then everyone suddenly stands up and goes, wait a minute, this Ogogo guy, he's the real deal. He's serious. You make yourself a star. You make yourself a big star, and then you run it back later on in the year, maybe in London, and then you do something really special. Then you do a big arena. Then you have this real unique atmosphere where Cody Rhodes wins in someone else's backyard. Now, I know you could say, well, it's Memorial Day and he's saying that he's the American dream. Why would he put someone over? That's the thing that's kind of making me sort of think about it. There is a little bit of, would Cody Rhodes be willing to do that? But that's drama. That's drama. That's drama, and pro wrestling is drama. So I think the right call is to have Anthony Ogogo win. I think the right call is to have him knock Cody Rhodes out early. Will they do that? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that's the right call, though, and I'm not just saying that because I'm British. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo tonight at Double or Nothing? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right corner up the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.